My wife wanted to experience being with another man, so I decided to ghost her. When I finally returned to collect my belongings, what I found left me completely shocked. She wasn't the same person I had left behind. Hey Reddit. I've been married to my wife for 5 years. We had our ups and downs, but nothing serious enough to make me question our commitment. Then, a few months ago, she approached me with something that threw me off completely. She said she wanted to experience being with someone else, to see what it felt like to be with another man. She claimed it was just curiosity, a phase, and maybe it could even help rekindle the spark between us. I was blindsided. I knew we were in a bit of a rut, but I had no idea things were that bad for her. At first, I tried to reason with her. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with the idea, that it felt like a betrayal. Her reaction was shockingly cold. She didn't apologize or reassure me. Instead, she said she felt like I didn't understand her needs and that I was being too closed-minded. The woman I thought I knew was suddenly acting like a stranger, and the coldness in her eyes just hit me like a ton of bricks. After a few sleepless nights, I decided I couldn't be in that house anymore. The thought of her going out, meeting someone else, and then coming back home to me like nothing had happened was something I couldn't live with. So, I packed a bag, left her a note saying I needed space, and went to stay with a friend. I blocked her on social media and decided to ghost her completely. I just didn't want any reminders of her or what our marriage had turned into. A few days passed, and the initial shock faded into a hollow emptiness. I was grieving, but I knew I had made the right choice. The woman I had married was gone, replaced by someone who valued her curiosity over our vows. But after a week or so, I knew I had to go back to the house and pick up the rest of my things. I thought I was prepared, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Update. When I got to the house, I expected to find her gone or at least indifferent to my absence. But as I stepped inside, the place felt completely different. The house was a mess, dishes stacked up in the sink, garbage spilling out of the can, clothes thrown everywhere. My wife had always been a clean freak, so seeing the place in that state shocked me. It was as if the life had been drained out of our home. I cautiously made my way through the house, feeling like I was walking through someone else's life. Then I heard something. A faint, almost desperate sound coming from our bedroom. My first instinct was to turn around and leave, but something in that sound stopped me. It was a quiet, broken sobbing, a sound I had never heard from her before. I opened the bedroom door, and there she was, curled up on the bed, looking like a shell of the person I had known. Her hair was unkempt, her face was tear-streaked, and there was a kind of emptiness in her eyes that I had never seen before. She looked up at me, and the surprise and relief on her face were almost childlike, as if she had been waiting for me to come back this whole time. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy for her. But then I remembered the pain she had put me through, the way she looked at me with coldness when she told me about her plan. I took a deep breath and told her that I was only there to collect my things, that I wasn't interested in fixing what she had broken. Her face fell, and she started crying harder, but I had made up my mind. I grabbed what I needed, and as I walked out, I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. Another update. A few days later, a mutual friend called to tell me that my wife had been admitted to the hospital. She had suffered a mental breakdown and wasn't eating or taking care of herself. At first, I wanted to ignore it and move on with my life, but part of me still felt responsible. So, against my better judgment, I decided to visit her. When I walked into her hospital room, I barely recognized her. She looked pale, frail, and there was an emptiness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. A nurse pulled me aside and told me that she had been talking about me constantly, saying my name as if it was the only thing keeping her grounded. She had become completely withdrawn, refusing to see anyone else or talk to anyone except me. I sat by her bed, and she reached out, grabbing my hand weakly. She started apologizing, saying that she was sorry for everything, that she had been lost in her own twisted ideas of what she thought she needed. She confessed that she had let her insecurities consume her, leading her to believe that trying something new was the answer to her problems. As she lay there, looking broken and vulnerable, I felt a strange sense of pity. I told her that I forgave her, but that forgiveness didn't mean we could go back to the way things were. I explained that too much had happened, that the trust between us was gone, and that I needed to move on for my own sanity. She started to cry, saying she didn't deserve forgiveness and that she just wanted one more chance to prove she could change. But I stayed firm. This was the closure I needed, and I wasn't about to give her a false sense of hope. Final update. After that visit, I decided to go no contact. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Mutual friends told me that she had started seeing a therapist and was working on her mental health. She had distanced herself from the friends who had encouraged her experiment, and apparently, she was trying to rebuild her life from scratch. Hearing about her progress was surreal. I felt both a sense of closure and a lingering sadness for the person she used to be. A few weeks later, I received a letter from her. She wrote about how therapy had helped her understand the underlying issues that had led her to make such a destructive choice. She admitted that she had been selfish, that she had taken our relationship for granted, and that she was committed to becoming a better person, even if it was too late for us. She thanked me for leaving, saying it had been the wake-up call she needed. Reading that letter, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. I realized that I didn't harbor anger anymore, only sadness for what could have been. She was right, in a strange way, my leaving had forced both of us to confront our flaws. I don't think I'll ever understand why things happen the way they did, but I've come to accept it. To anyone reading this, if you find yourself in a similar situation, remember that sometimes the only way forward is to let go. Holding on to something broken will only hurt you more. I'm still working on healing, and I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm at peace with my decision.